Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for being here, and thank you especially to Maurizio. It's a real treat to have you. I just want to say I remember the first time we met. I don't know if you'll remember this. It was in 2013. We were kind of thrown into a car together. I think it was an Aventador for a drive from Manhattan to Long Island for the dealership opening there. And I didn't know who this person was, and you know, I kind of just fell in love with you in that car ride. He told me the best story about a line of Lamborghini executives going through a toll booth in Lamborghinis, and nobody had cash. Yes. So they were scrambling from car to car, begging for money. It was great, and so thank you for being here. Maurizio is the Chief Technical Officer of Lamborghini. A real treat to have you.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for your hospitality. It's really a big honor to be here and to have a chance to talk with you about Lamborghini, let me say.
Thank you. So we all know you've been with Lamborghini for many years. I just would love to hear from you. You know, first off, how do you keep product fresh? How do you keep such an historic brand, product-wise, fresh and exciting?
Yes, I started Lamborghini already 23 years ago, and when I arrived, Lamborghini was really a company that is completely different from today. It's a company that produced more or less 210 cars for years. Now we produce some thousand for years, means it's really completely different perimeter. But already of this time, there was one characteristic that I think is fundamental. Lamborghini was recognized every time like super different from all the other in terms of design and pure power. These was the two elements that characterized already Lamborghini of years ago, before the big jump in the future. And I think in order to be able to have a fresh products, you need to maintain a fil rouge that is fundamental in this kind of car. And also from this time to now, design, power, and also now more and more handling and performance became the fil rouge of Lamborghini, and guarantee that every product is something better of the previous one, is able to generate in our customer what is the expectation that normally we define with our, let me say, with our friend of Centro Stile, and also with the colleague of the board and our CEO, the wow effect. Every time that a customer see for the first time a Lamborghini, must have an emotion that is a wow. Cannot be something different. If it's not have this kind of perception, it's difficult to think that can be a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I bet the company has changed a lot over the years. Can you say what might be the biggest change that you feel from having started when you were young to now?
When at the beginning, we can say that was really a way to make the car in an artisanal way. It means we can say that really every car was different from the other, and you try really to arrive a conclusion that can be acceptable. Today, Lamborghini is a company that play a role in the super sport car field, like one of the best brands that you can achieve in terms of process, in terms of quality, and in terms of innovation. All this can be guaranteed only due to our shareholder that really invest a lot in our company, and the fact that more and more we want to be recognized like trendsetter in design, in technology, new material, research, and all what create our car different from the other.
Yeah. Now you are the mind behind such icons as the Lamborghini Aventador, the Lamborghini Huracan, and many variations of those wonderful cars. Can you tell us, as an engineer, how do you keep an icon fresh, and how do you actually revitalize it?
This is, let me say, is a kind of challenge that you have internally the company, that every time I must start from the top of the company, means from our presidents, in order to provocate and to ask and never to be satisfied from what we have. And after it's clear that is a kind of domino effects that go through from the top of the company, arriving in side research and development, and all the people are really proud to be able to demonstrate that we are not arrived at the end. And exactly what you mentioned before, when we decide, for example, to use for the first time in Aventador a full monocoque in carbon fiber, was something that astonish the world, because normally nobody is able to do this due to the cost, due to the complexity. But we were not satisfied. We decided also to produce in-house. This is something that creates a kind of internal challenging in the company, and you are never satisfied of the previous products. The last example, for example, is the introduction of active aerodynamics and aerovectory. Is something that we invented in the company, we patent, and it's really difficult to say why, but it's clear that this is a kind of challenging for our engineering to do something that no other have done before.
How do you describe aerovectoring? I remember you describing it to me. How do you describe it to people who love cars and love Lamborghinis but aren't necessarily interested in all the technical aspects? Why does aerovectoring matter to someone who buys a Huracan?
When we developed the Huracan Performante, was the first car that adopted this system, my engineering, people that are related to the simulation of aerodynamics, came in my office telling, Maurizio, we have a marvelous idea. And they described the idea, and I told them, I don't trust on this idea, cannot work. And after, based on simulation, they tried to convince me, and they arrived to convince when they told me, Maurizio, it's like when you go to ski. When you go to ski and you want to cornering left and right, you have two possibilities. One, you put force, but it's really difficult, you are not harmonics, and you spend a lot of energy. The other side is to be able to manage the pressure that you put on the left or right side of your body, and in this way, spontaneously, you turn left or right. And based on this principle, they develop this aerovectoring system that when you turn the steering is able to put more pressure in the inner parts of the wheel. In this way, the car spontaneously starts to turning, and this increases the dynamic behavioral, reduce the effort that you need in terms of steering. And this is give immediately a perception in what way the physics can be merged with some phenomena that we do instinctively. But at the end, this is what provokes a performance that is outstanding.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me about that when it first debuted. And it was great because you talked about how, I don't know if old world is the right way to describe this system, but it's not like crazy computer electronics. It's actually understanding the motion of air and physics. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that plays out into your...
I think that this is one of the most important elements. Normally in the development, there are some solutions that are really super complex and sometimes work, but when a solution is super complex, normally you have problem because it's difficult to realize, it's difficult to manage perfectly what happened. And more the solutions are simple, more sometimes it's difficult to trust that this solution can make a difference, but normally physics is something really basic. It's not something that you need to make a triple jump to prove that physics is correct. And also when, in case that you are able to apply these simple elements, you can be sure that you will have a marvelous result without to use a big amount of effort.
Yeah.
In the case, for example, of the aerovectoring that you mentioned, we don't have system that is moving. It's really simple. We only blow air under the wing. That is something that everybody say is impossible, but is enough to create this kind of blowing, and the blowing is able to destroy the wind under the wing, and this is enough to create this kind of movement, spontaneous movement of the car.
I love that because you describe it very simply, but it's a pretty complex thing to figure out.
At the end, if you think all the physical elements, the physics phenomena that happened are simple. Several times when we are not able to describe, we use really a big amount of word or formula to describe something that sooner or later can be much more easy to describe.
Yeah. So, okay, on the other side of things, I know you made a very special third millennium car with MIT and spent a lot of time working with the students there to develop some technologies that we will be seeing far into the future. Can you tell us a little bit more about that car?
Yeah, when we were in a board meeting with our President Domenicali, and we have a discussion about the future of Lamborghini. And you can imagine in a super sport car, tradition is part of the heritage, but it's clear we need to look also forward. And if we look forward, there is a short-term strategy that is already defined and is part of a normal development. But sometimes you must be much more visionary, means to look really forward. And together we start a discussion and we decide to launch a project that we call the Lamborghini del Terzo Millennio. Third millennium means really look forward. And we try to understand if a futuristic car can be a Lamborghini with the technology of today. And the answer was no. For this reason, we start to scout what are the technology more important for the future, and we recognize that no one of this technology was available. And looking inside the most important center of research, where something similar are in the pipeline of investigation, we discovered that at MIT there were several laboratories that work exactly in this. Due to this, we start 2 years ago. There was an official signature between the MIT and Dr. Domenicali in this level of collaboration. We opened 2 laboratories that work really in the futuristic research of structural carbon fiber elements like a chassis, but also like a body panel that can make the function of the battery, means to storage energy inside the panel of the car. And the other one is a supercapacitor that allowed to have much more energy storage with less weight and less packaging. We signed these 2 contracts. This year, after 1 year of job with MIT, we have already a big results in terms of research. It's clear that is something that is a strategic project, because you can imagine a project like this have 3-4 years of timing, where professor, student, and our engineering work together. And after, if everything will work perfectly, because it's clear that we talk about research, and research is not every time give a solution. After, if everything will work, we need to see what way can be applicable and can be also sustainable from economical point of view.
And I encourage everyone to Google that car. It's a really crazy looking car. And can you say it in Italian, third millennium? Because they should hear the perfect way to say it.
The name is La Lamborghini del Terzo Millennio.
Beautiful. Yeah. Please Google that. It's a great car.
Thank you.
OK, so now we're going to take a moment and do a poll. So in your apps, please pull up the poll. This one is for Lamborghini. The poll question is, should Lamborghini make an electric car? Feel free to shout out the answer or put it in your phone, or better yet, do both. And while you're thinking about your answer, I would love to hear from Mr. Reggiani the thought process going into how does Lamborghini approach making an electric vehicle?
This is a big fight, let me say in this way.
Yeah.
It's clear that exactly the DNA, for us, DNA is really like if we talk about a human. In the DNA of Lamborghini, there is emotion, there is the sound, there is the handling, the acceleration, and the design. And DNA is one of the most important reasons to buy Lamborghini. If you are not able to provide this DNA, there is no reason to spend all this money for a car. And till now, we were able, in every model, to reply this DNA. Means you see this common line that came from the Miura, go to the Countach, to the Diablo, to the Murcielago, to the Aventador, to the Urus of today. Yeah. That is a Lamborghini. It's clear that when we talk about electric car, the most difficult points is sound and weight. Speed is something that we can solve. This is our job, and if will be electric vehicle Lamborghini, I can guarantee that will be also a Lamborghini sound inside.
Thank goodness. We're counting on you for that. And I should note that Mr. Reggiani arrived in a Lamborghini Urus today. It's parked out front in the courtyard. If you want to go look at it, it's a great car. And it is not electric. So
sure.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, Mr. Reggiani.
Grazie. It was really a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.